Wow, where do we start with the 1980s? A huge musical milestone that revolutionized the music industry was MTV, which became a worldwide influence on pop culture. We also saw heavier music like metal with grotesquely large drum sets on one side, and on the other side, minimalist drum machines that started to have a huge impact. All-female bands finally began to also achieve chart success and win some real respect. My name is Vicky O'Neon, I'm a drummer and educator. In this episode, we're gonna take a look at the music and evolution of drumming in the 1980s.
Vicky O'Neon presents
Drumming Through the Decades. MTV launched in 1981, and since then the video and imagery has played a huge part in how people view and recognize music. Absolutely revolutionary. The channel originally aired music videos and music-related programs, so the impact of 80s artists on pop culture was not only musical but aesthetic as well. So some artists had major success because of their videos and others because of their vocal ability. And many of these artists made an everlasting impression on the music world. The Bangles was one of the 80s biggest all-female bands that MTV helped to launch with hits like Eternal Flame and Walk Like an Egyptian. In their early days, they opened for Cyndi Lauper on her Fun tour. The band also attracted the attention of Prince, so much so he wrote Manic Monday for them, which became a #2 chart hit, outsold only by another Prince tune, Kiss. Debbie Peterson is the drummer in the band, and she has also performed with artists like Bonnie Raitt, Katie Lang, Emmylou Harris, and Spinal Tap. New Wave is rooted in punk rock, but more complex in its music and lyrics, and you often hear synthesizers and electronic production as a part of the sound. The music is quirky and eccentric, but also melodic and catchy, which made many New Wave artists perfect for MTV. Debbie Harry from Blondie is one of the most commercially successful New Wave musicians. Blondie often performed at the legendary CBGBs in New York City, and their album Parallel Lines is considered a punk pop classic. They were inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 2006. The Go-Go's is one of the most commercially successful all-female bands in history. They are the only all-female band ever who have written, played, and produced their own records rather than being controlled by typical male producers or managers. Their album Beauty and the Beat hit the Billboard charts and is considered one of the cornerstones of New Wave. Gina Schock is the drummer in the band, and she had a huge influence on the success of the Go-Go's. In recent years, she has also written songs for Miley Cyrus and Selena Gomez. Two-tone is a genre of British popular music in the 80s that fused traditional Jamaican ska music with elements of punk rock and new wave. Its name derives from the record label Two-Tone Records and references a desire to transcend and diffuse racial tensions. Many two-tone groups such as The Specials, The Selecter, and The Beat featured a mix of black, white, and multiracial people. Two-tone ska then influenced the third wave ska and ska punk movement that developed in the US in the late 80s and 90s. Body Snatchers were a 7-piece all-female two-tone ska band that toured with the Go-Go's. They were signed to Two-Tone Records, and their single Let's Do Rock Steady hit the UK charts. They also toured with famous ska bands like The Specials, Toots and the Maytals, and Madness. The emergence of synthpop has been described as perhaps the most significant event in melodic music since British beat music from the 1960s. Synthpop was defined by its primary use of synthesizers, drum machines, and sequencers, sometimes using them to replace all other instruments. We now see a shift from the drum kit player to something that can be programmed and always consistent, and a lot of drummers thought this invention might be the end of their careers. Synthpop established the synthesizer as a primary instrument in mainstream pop music and influenced the sound of many mainstream rock acts. It was also a major influence on house music, which grew out of the post-disco dance club culture. A drum machine is an electronic instrument that makes percussion sounds, drum beats, and patterns. Drum machines imitate drum kits and percussion instruments, as well as produce unique sounds such as synthesized electronic tones. The Lin M1 drum computer, released in 1980, was the first drum machine to use digital samples. The same year, Roland launched the TR-808 Rhythm Composer. It received mixed reviews for its unrealistic drum sounds and was initially a commercial failure. However, the 808 attracted a cult following among underground musicians for its affordability on the second-hand market. It was also easy to use and had distinctive sounds, particularly its deep, booming bass drum, which came to be a cornerstone of the emerging electronic, dance, and hip-hop genres. The 808 is one of the most influential inventions in popular music and has been used on more hit records than any other drum machine.
We started dancing and love put us into back to Cali, styling, profiling.
I don't have the TR-808, but I do have Roland's MC707, which has the sounds from the 808. So this is what the 808 kick sounds like. Snare, hi-hat, some of the other sounds. So you can either use finger drumming to play beats, a more common way to use it is to program patterns. So you can pick a sound, the hi-hat for example, and then you can just tell the machine where you want the hi-hat to be played, and it has 16 different slots. So let's see what this hi-hat that I just put in here sounds like. And then you can add one sound at a time after that. So let's do the kick. Snare. So, with just a few clicks, you can create some cool beats. So I can totally see why this drum machine became so popular. And the 808 was followed by the TR-909 in 1983, which also initially was a commercial failure, but it also ended up being a huge success and influenced the developments of electronic genres such as techno, house, and acid. So I also have the 909 here. This is what it sounds like. And today there's loads of different variations of drum machines, and as you can see and hear, they have had a long-lasting impact on popular music in the 20th century.
It's in the trees. It's coming.
The actual sounds on a recording, especially the drum sounds, play a big role in different genres. A sound that pretty much came to define the 80s was something called gated reverb. Gated reverb is a technique that involves using a loud reverb effect, similar to a room echo, that is cut short by a noise gate. So let me show you. So here I have a snare drum. First I'm gonna play it without any effects. And then I'm gonna add reverb to it. So it sounds big, it sounds like it's in a big space. But now we wanna add the gate to cut this reverb short. And this is meant to sound unnatural and unrealistic, and the effect is typically applied to recordings of drums to make the hits sound powerful and punchy. Gated reverb is most famously demonstrated in Phil Collins' 1981 hit single, In the Air Tonight. Climax is the first self-produced all-female R&B and pop band where every member play an instrument. Solar Records signed them in 1981 and released their debut album Never Underestimate the Power of a Woman. They had several chart hits including the top 5 Billboard single I Miss You. The drummer Bernadette Cooper started the band and has also done her own Diva and a Turntable tour and solo album. You can clearly hear the impact of electronic drums in their sound. Graffiti, breakdancing, rap, beatboxing, and fashion are all big parts of hip-hop culture, which became the dominant cultural movement of the African American communities in the 1980s. Hip-hop had a major influence on pop music already then and continues to do so today. Sylvia Robinson was an American singer and record producer who is considered the mother of hip-hop. She was the founder and CEO of the hip-hop label Sugar Hill Records, which released the song Rapper's Delight performed by the Sugar Hill Gang. It was one of the first commercially successful hip-hop songs, and it revolutionized the music industry by introducing rap, scratch, and breakdance. She also produced and recorded The Message with Grandmaster Flash, which became a hugely influential track discussing life in the ghetto. Rolling Stone has selected The Message as one of the 50 greatest hip-hop songs of all time. Later acts signed to Sugar Hill Records included all-female rap-funk group The Sequence, featuring a teenage Angie Stone. They had a million-selling hit with Funk You Up, and funk was a key influence in hip-hop. Sampling is the reuse of a portion of a sound recording in another recording. The drum break in James Brown's song Funky Drummer, played by Clyde Stubblefield, is one of the most widely sampled pieces of music. This technique became popular in 1986 with tracks like South Bronx and It's a Demo, sampling Stubblefield's drum break. Since then, the same sample has been used by hip-hop acts like Public Enemy, NWA, Run DMC and the Beastie Boys, and later pop musicians such as Ed Sheeran and George Michael. It's crazy that Stubblefield did not receive a songwriting credit for his performance on The Funky Drummer. Therefore, he hasn't received any royalties for this. Salt and Pepper is one of the best-selling rap acts of all time, male or female. They were the first female rap act to achieve gold and platinum status with their debut album Hot, Cool and Vicious, including their hit single Push It. In 1995, they won a Grammy Award for Best Rap Performance, making them one of the first female rap acts to win a Grammy Award. They've been nominated for the Grammys several times, and their success has earned them the title the First Ladies of Rap and Hip Hop. Queen Latifah is a strong female role model, being a rapper, songwriter, and producer with hits like Ladies First and Nature of a Sister. Her hit Unity was influential in raising awareness of women's rights, and the record won a Grammy Award. And her work in music, film, and television has earned her many more awards. Drummer Kate Schellenbach started as a teenager to play in the New York scene, and it wasn't long until she became one of the industry's premier drummers, playing with Beastie Boys from 1981 to 1984. During that time, she was featured on recordings like Pollywogs 2 and Cookie Puss. After leaving the Beastie Boys, she helped to form Lucius Jackson. We see the counterbalance to electronic sounds with metal music. Now drummers are going even bigger with their setups, and we see the reintroduction of the double bass drum along with the attitude more is more. Female musicians often still had the reputation of cute chicks playing music, so in response, some women formed mixed and all-female metal bands. For example, a band influenced by hard rock and heavy metal was Heart. The group, composed of sisters Anne and Nancy Wilson, was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 2013. The all-female heavy metal band Girlschool is from South London. One of the original members of the band, Kathy Valentine, left to join the Go-Go's. Among Girlschool's early recordings was an EP titled The St. Valentine's Day Massacre, which they recorded with Motorhead. Roxy Petrucci is the drummer in the all-female glam metal bands Madame X and Vixen. She started on clarinet, but realized in college that drumsticks and black leather was more exciting, so she and her sister started Madame X. They became known for their visually stunning live shows, described as a brilliant blend of Rocky Horror Picture Show with Spinal Tap moments. After Madame X, Roxy joined Vixen, and they opened for legends like Ozzy, Scorpions, Deep Purple, and Kiss. Bobby Hall is an American percussionist who has performed on records like Ain't No Sunshine by Bill Withers, Let's Get It On by Marvin Gaye, and Edge of 17 by Stevie Nicks, and many, many more. As a young percussionist, she was discovered by Motown and found herself recording with artists like The Temptations and Diana Ross and The Supremes. She has also played with artists like Bob Dylan, Carole King, Janis Joplin, Joni Mitchell, Aretha Franklin, The Doors, Pink Floyd, James Taylor, Rod Stewart, Tracy Chapman, and that's just a small portion of the list. Wow. Jody Lynn Scott has worked as a recording artist and live percussionist with so many well-known musicians, it's hard to keep track. They include Stevie Wonder, Eric Clapton, Patti LaBelle, Jay-Z, and Avril Lavigne. She has also appeared in a number of films and live concert videos, including Elton John's Live in Australia and The Who's Live at the Giants Stadium. We can't leave the 80s without talking about Sheila E. She's one of my biggest inspirations. She began her career playing with the George Duke Band and has since then collaborated and toured with artists like Prince, Santana, Ringo Starr, and many more musical legends. Prince inspired her to start her own solo career, which led to her critically acclaimed debut album that included the 80s classic, The Glamorous Life. Sheila E. is known as the Queen of Percussion.
She don't need a man's touch, she wants to be. The glamorous life without love, it ain't much. Don't be a note.
At the end of the 80s, people start to get tired of a sound that's getting louder, crankier, more intense, and a new generation of music listeners don't necessarily like the fact that some bands were selling out and merchandising themselves. So we see a counter reaction with grunge music, indie, and the underground feminist movement Riot Girl. More on this in the next episode. Thank you for watching. I hope you've been liking the series so far, and I would love to hear any trivia you know from the 80s. Drop a comment below, like and subscribe, and all of that, and I'll see you back in the 90s.